we were trying to find the house and where we set the show. The Downton was so, another character for the script. And to get that house right was very important for us. Highclere gave us the interior, the exterior, the grounds, and suited the script.
Well, it is a character. It's a character in my life. It's a huge, imposing, extravagant, enormous part of my life. And it's got a definite personality. It's quite masculine. It's not a pretty house. You can't do flowery wallpaper. It's a I've made it kind of house.
This is much more of a trumpet blast. I think Highclere is a unique architectural statement, and it tells us much more about the confidence of the late Victorians and the confidence of high empire.
You have a sense of stewardship and of passing on, and I think you're particularly aware of it in a big house like this because, in a sense, we don't own it. We're just, custodians for time. Whenever I drive in across the bridge into the park, I just think it's a completely different world. It's really special. And if I ever get over that, then I think I've lost the plot.
The way of life of these servanted houses, these fully staffed houses, interests me. It always has. It interests me long before I wrote Gosford. And there is something intriguing about this group of people living in pretty close proximity, and yet with such different expectations. So you have the family and their friends and relations and so on, and they're all living one kind of life, but within a sphere. And the servants are on the whole living a different one, and even they are very strongly graded, so that the butler is the king and the housekeeper is the queen, and then you get right down to the kind of kitchen maid, and all with different hopes and dreams.
Dad will think I'm a fool to leave a good place, and Mum will say I'm getting above myself, but I don't believe that. Nor do I.
A lot of us are really curious about what went on in those big houses and how did it work, because it's so different from the way we are now, and yet it's the beginnings, it's the foundations of a modern world.
We come to a stately home in this story at a critical point because the First World War changed everything to do with the way British society worked, and particularly how the aristocracy lived and were able to continue to live as a result of that war. But in the build-up to it, we are seeing Downton at its most potent.
Downton Abbey is a sort of microcosm of the world at large, really. It is a society, it's a whole society that works and had its own internal machinery and needed to keep working. It wasn't sort of masters and slaves, it was a whole social order that depended on each other to be looked after, to be treated with respect. Otherwise, the whole system collapsed.
Please sit, everyone. I just want to say a quick hello to my old comrade in arms.
The family did not regard the staff as alien, and vice versa the other way round, but that Carson, the butler, probably had known Robert, Lord Grantham, since he was a boy. Maybe the daughters of the house used to go down and play in the kitchen, and Carson would have put one of them on his shoulder. So that link that happens between human beings was there. Despite the divide of lifestyle, there was a great bond within the house.
You've always been so kind to me. Always. From when I was quite a little girl. Why is that?
Even a butler has his favourites, my lady.
There's an us and a them downstairs as well, because there's a divide between the servants, and you've got Thomas and O'Brien on one side who are kind of duplicitous and scheming and very ambitious, and then you've got the rest of them, the Bates and the Annas, the ladies' maids, and you can see there's two sides downstairs, and it can get quite nasty sometimes. There's an us and a them downstairs and an us and a them across the class divide.
I can't believe I've been passed over for Long John Silver.
You should have spoken up when you had the chance. Don't make the same mistake next time.
Who says there'll be a next time?
They guarded their position, and they struggled to move up. And the battles we see downstairs, often deploying the information that they know about the family, almost as a weapon system to advance, is in itself part of the plot and takes us forward. And you understand, because you can see yourself in their position, wanting to improve.
What did you mean, Mr. Permoot lived each day as if it were his last?
What I said?
Well, how did you know?
Can't keep William waiting. Gangway.
I'll be asking the same question later, so you better have an answer ready.
And it's a complete gossip, you know. I know that, you know, there isn't any privacy, so it is a community of its own. It's like a little village here, and if you don't fit in, you're probably not going to fit in so well. And it matters to my husband and I that people who come here fit in with who's here, because we value and like them hugely.
You get a sense in this this series of, you know, the flurry of activity downstairs, the duck's feet going like crazy downstairs to keep it all smooth and calm upstairs. Alistair said that as soon as the family move out of the room, maids descend on the room, plump all the cushions, so it's absolutely perfect. When if somebody came and walked back in, it miraculously, like a very good, well managed stage production.
I think there was sacrifice. There also was considerable discipline in this way of life, and it was personal, self-discipline.
You must remember that a good servant at all times retains a sense of pride and dignity that reflects the pride and dignity of the family he serves. And never make me remind you of it again.
Service may seem tough in a house like this, but what were the options? Being a horny-handed man of toil out tilling the soil, or perhaps walking off to Manchester and trying to find a job in a cotton mill?
For women in the country, particularly young women, there were very few other openings. For many of them, service was it. They were guarded by the housekeepers, absolutely like a matron in a prison. So there was no hanky-panky. I mean, all that stuff in period drama where the younger son of the house is permanently up in the maid's corridor. I mean, for the most part, in a well-run house, he didn't have a prayer.
There were probably 25 gardeners. There must have been about the same number inside the house. I mean, judging by the bedrooms, there are certainly 25 bedrooms for the maids on the top floor. And then some of the married couples had houses in the park. And at the First World War, the 5th Earl noted that he was trying to support 250 families, which is quite a huge number. There were rooms for 14 footmen. I know that if you were a footman and you were 5'10" and less, you got paid £20 a year. 5'10" and more, £22 a year.
I knew very little about what actually went on in these houses, and I was drawn to the idea of almost telling the story primarily from the staff point of view, because they were, of course, party to both worlds. At such a time of great change and really the beginning of the end of the empire and the aristocracy.
It's not the Jane Austens. People were beginning to commute to work. There was telephones. It's a fantastic time, and it hasn't been done that much on television.
Before the First World War, the family here, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, married the illegitimate daughter of Alfred de Rothschild, and she came with a dowry in 1895 of £500,000, about £30 million today. A time of huge exuberance. They didn't have the one car, which I see you driving up. He'd have had 12. He had a car for himself, a car for his mechanic, a car for his chauffeur. His wife put in one of the earliest electrical circuits in this house in 1895, which was phenomenal.
I feel as if I were on stage at the Gaiety.
She was very, very much present, and she'd have known exactly what was going on. So she's been a source of stories and the huge parties that they had here. We had prime ministers, Egyptologists, foreign princes, amazing shooting parties, English aristocracy, the works, which I suppose I try to carry on today. Why not?